This broadcast is appropriate for all ages right here on hashtag We Are Movie Squad. Hashtag WeAreMovieClub. It's time for Scary Movie Squad. Oh, I was laughing too hard there. Okay. Salutations, I'm Cameron and I am conversation ready. This is CT and we're here to talk about... He looks like a Choco Taco. See, CT? What? What are you upset about? It's just a quiet place. If you made that noise, the things would eat you. It would be nom nom nom. But do you want that? No. You see out of the camera? Well, you reposition cats where you want them, and they continuously no. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. They just stare where they want to go. It's so funny. And then you just... Oh, okay, fine. I didn't throw her. I put her down on the thing. I've done it before. I'm not against throwing my cats. It's pretty funny most of the time. But I try to make them land somewhere somewhat safe-ish. Okay, there. My notes are away from the lights a little bit. Woo! So that was quite the opening. So we're going to talk about Quiet Place. The foremost thing I want to mention about A Quiet Place is that it's pretty damn short. It's about as minimal as you can get for a movie, to me. Maybe a minute 50 or an hour 15, but this is only an hour 20. It's really, really short. 60 minutes is an episode still. So episodes 20 to 60 minutes, give or take. So yeah, I mean, it's basically a long episode or just a short movie. It's in that gray area. Who cares? But it's so interesting what they did with this movie, and they really put some options down on the table. It was this close to being a Cloverfield movie, but I think it was just an idea that they weren't comfortable sharing with the rest of the world because it would become limiting. Now, granted, they could have, because we never leave this little area that they're in, so it could have just been that these creatures, there's creatures, spoilers, happen to be deployed to this one area, but I'm sure they have a bigger picture plan for Cloverfield as a franchise, so it may not matter. So we open on a fallen streetlight. Ooh, it's a big ghost town. It's very quiet. The grocery stores have already been looted. A small person skitters by. There's an older sister. She's got, I call them deaf implants, and I'm gonna be unfair that whole way. I believe the official term, and I hesitate to do this because I feel like it's offensive if I don't know. Ocular implants? No, ocular is your eyes. Cochlear implants, which actually means that they go back here and they do some stuff, and she does have a plate, but the devices that she puts on must attach to that. So I'm going to go ahead and say she's got cochlear implants, so she can hear. It's just not very good. We'll circle back to this later in the movie as they're discussing it, but it's important to notice because that's something on deaf people. So she can't hear any noise that's being made, but she also means that she naturally doesn't speak. She signs, and this only makes so much noise. So there's only so much to do for it. But if she signs, that means other people sign, or they all read lips. So it's very lucky. Let's just say lucky that there's a family that can communicate without making noise in this scenario. So they're all moving very slowly, very quietly. Mom's even going after pills, and for whatever reason, there's just a shelf of pill bottles that are already prescribed, and she's going through that. So she's trying to like reach around. And thinking back on it, it doesn't make sense because the labels are like faced towards us. But maybe she recognizes the pills in the case, but she's trying to like reach over some to grab one in the back, and then she almost drops it. She makes a little noise, and they all freeze. So it's kind of interesting to see that shit happen so dramatically. And it's a little disturbing in and of itself. Like, we don't even need creepy monster or threat. We just need people who are scared. It's like if you're ever in a place where all the animals start running one direction, it should just inherently cause panic in you, because your brain will get there before you get there, that there's danger on the other end, and that's why they're all moving like that. Anyways, it turns out the boy's sick, or one of the boys is sick, because there's 2 boys and a girl, and the girl's eldest. The older boy is sick. Mom's the one getting medicine for him. And of course, they drag the whole family out on these excursions, because why not? And there are subs for the sign language, so you do have to read a little bit, but it makes sense. This was kind of a sub weekend for us, and like, I allowed it. It's just the reality of it. So a lot of this movie's done with subtitles, which makes it a little hard to type notes and chat at rabbit/camera, and then pay attention. So a little bit of a challenge, but I think I got a lot of it. I forgot to take notes a couple times. I was just like, watching this, thank you very much. So there's the youngest brother. He's like a little kid. Like, whenever this happened, he must have been a baby. I have no idea how he survived, because most babies are little shitheads and make a lot of noise. It's just the fact of it. So the youngest almost knocks something over, and Death Girl slides in to keep it from crashing to the ground. Very cool move. Dad's outside keeping watch. Not entirely sure why in retrospect. And the youngest kid ends up getting his hands on this toy, which is a space shuttle, which he recognizes as flying, even though that can't possibly have been something that he's learned his life. He also just doesn't give a shit about making noise. This might be his first time out ever. So everyone's acting like he's holding a nuclear bomb, which he, for intents and purposes, he might be. We don't know this early in the movie how these creatures react, if there's actually creatures, if it's not like a force of nature that happens. Like, the movie hasn't told us that. We just know things from the trailer, because the trailer ruined the movie for us already. And they slowly take it away from him and put it on the ground, and they tell him, no, you can't have a fucking toy. And then the sister ends up, they take out the batteries, like, just in case, and she ends up giving the toy back to him. And the little shithead kid, who can't possibly know how the batteries work, or that what a space shuttle actually is, and I'm not saying like they didn't teach him stuff, but he's just, but he takes the batteries, and he's walking, and he's falling behind the whole way home, and they're walking on this sand too, so their feet don't make noise. They're barefoot on sand. It makes a lot of sense. But so that little jackass, the whole time they're walking, had to have like been working on this to make this happen. No one's paying any attention to him. He's way behind, and they're walking, and let's say they're halfway home. They're at this bridge, and the idiot finally manages to get the batteries in the right order. And I'm telling you, like, I still have trouble getting them faced the right direction. And he gets it so that the damn thing lights up and makes noise. And he starts playing with it in the middle of the road, in the middle of anywhere, like, hey, I can make noise. But he's not talking, he's still signing, so I don't understand how he understands that, like, he should not make noise, he should sign to not make noise, but, like, he shouldn't, but making noise isn't dangerous. Like, just the idea that, like, he can't comprehend, don't do this, it's dangerous, is such a problem. And yeah, kids put their hand on the stove and shit, but my whole point is that I didn't feel any sympathy when what happened next happened. Because sure enough, he's like, he has a goofy look on his face. His dad is sprinting, but he's about a football field away, so it doesn't matter, to go get him. And sure enough, he's playing with the thing, and something barrels by and grabs him. It's so quick that we can't even get a good look at it. We can see a brownish color, and that's really it. So I don't know how they got that far away to begin with, other than they're dragging the sick kid around. But something gets them, and then we go to the future. I love that stupid cut to the future. Dad is sending Morse code SOS out on the radio system. Not sure how that idea is supposed to work, because most people who use the radio use it for sound, and it's still going to make a bunch of sound and crackling and beeping when you receive it. Now, granted, you can keep the speaker on mute and still watch telegraphs, but who has the telegraph set up? So it's a little weird, but there's a long montage of them packing things away, soundproofing a room with paper mache, cooking dinner under the floor, which I thought was odd. I guess you can't have all the cooking sounds, the spattering and bubbling and steam, whatever. So they're like steaming fish in the floor. Really kind of a brilliant move. I don't know what to do for it. They're playing Monopoly. Fucking why? That I was more upset about than anything else in this movie. Don't play Monopoly. It's the only game I think I've ever seen end in a fist fight, and it usually did. And it was only fun if we like did all kinds of wheelings and dealings. Like the original game wasn't very good. And so few people I know that like enjoy it, and those people do, and it's amazing to me. But while they're playing Monopoly, they knock over an oil lamp, which seems a little silly that you have an oil lamp that you could do that with. But they almost burn down the house. It makes a lot of noise because it's like the whoosh of the fire and everything crackling, and the kids kind of half gasp. Not like they're still quiet. So they have to beat out and smother the fire, and then while that's all happening, everyone panics like a creature shows up. JK, it's two raccoons. And not only are these raccoons like just making noise as if they're walking around like a creature, they're like chittering and having a good time, and they're nice and fat too, so it's like they've been around. And raccoons are smart, so I don't know why they picked raccoons. They had possums, maybe I could understand that one. But the two raccoons like are chittering, they wander off, and they make just enough noise outside that one of the creatures grabs them. And I couldn't tell if it grabbed both of them or one, but let's just say that creature was eating nice one way or the other. And it was sad for the raccoons. It's amazing they made it that far, but let's see, down in the basement, Dad's little workshop. He's working on the cochlear implants, and he's obviously been doing this for a while because he's got a lot of materials for it and everything. Cats are dumb. And he's obviously been working hard on it. Anyways, so Mom comes down to be friendly. They end up dancing. They listen to some music on earbuds, which I still think is dangerous because when it's that quiet, sound carries, and sound like music can definitely activate in a way that can attract attention even when you're not trying. Cut to the future again. Dad's laying more sand. Mom's approaching due date because they got all romantic. And honestly, it's a necessary thing. If evolution's going to allow survival, you've got to figure out procreation. There's got to be a way. And they've got a plan of sorts. It's really oddly defeated, but we'll get there. So, let's see. Daughter's trying to go downstairs in some house It's not their house, it's another house, and maybe it's the neighbor's house. And Dad stops her. They argue about it. Um, the point is, it's not safe. Like, you don't know, like, what's gonna make noise, what's not. Back home, the brother's doing math work, so mom's been homeschooling them. Is the kind of the point. So it's not that they're uneducated, at least. Dad wants them to go on an expedition, which, for a couple different ways, like, I understand it. It's bonding time, like man and son versus nature, that sort of stupid thing. But the way it happened, it was as if the daughter's never gone with them, and then all of a sudden, like, the boy's going with them. And there's a couple things about that. Evolutionarily, yes, the females need to be protected for procreation. There's one male. You're all so dumb. One male can... I don't know what you did. One male can breed with several females, but only one female... only one baby results when one female sleeps around. So, like, evolutionarily, like, that's... she needs to be protected. But at the same time, she needs the skills and survival instincts to do that, because if she runs away to go do whatever... Oh my god. You're idiots. Then... Sorry, the cats are really getting to me. Then she needs to know shit, and she's smart, and she's capable, so there's all the reason that she should be able to go there and bond with her dad. Now, there is the feasible reason for taking him over her that time, if not whatever, is that he ends up showing them a waterfall, and there's a cool effect that happens with that. So when they go to the river to fish, because that's what they're doing, he starts whispering to the kid because the river's making a bunch of noise. He's like, the loud noise drowns it out. It overwhelms our sound, so we essentially can't be heard. And the kid's just panicking. He's just trying to bolt and get away because he thinks the creatures are coming. Because that's what happens when you talk. And he saw his brother get taken. So, like, that fear is there. So it is important to bring him so that he can understand sound in a certain way over the girl, but the girl should have been able to come before this. So, back home, the daughter actually runs away because apparently she does this from time to time. So what the impression is, mom's dragging clothing up the stairs, or some bags of clothes up the stairs, and she manages to snag a nail. Why there was a nail in that position ever, I want to know. I want to know who the fuck thought that was a good idea. On stairs or on floors where people walk on them, why would you ever nail up, especially in the middle of the fucking... It just blows my mind. So, the bag catches in just such a way to pull the nail up. And it's like a steel nail, too, so it's impressive. Not only is mom really strong, but that bag not ripping to shreds was impressive. And then the fact that the nail bent. So, it's only a small payoff. But, I mean, it's just, those are the events that happened in the movie. I didn't write it. I think you could have left that part out. But the foreshadowing is that someone's going to step on it. Just what it is. So the father and son make it to the waterfall, and they actually have like a full-fledged out-loud conversation because the waterfall is that loud that it drowns out all the noise. So, honestly, the creature things are probably not going to hang around there because they can't distinguish noise. So go live there. You could build a house over the pond with the waterfall in the backyard. Like, it's completely possible. Now, building everything might be enough construction noise. It may take a long time. But honestly, it's a lot safer and better plan than what they ended up doing. And we'll get there. I'm actually fighting myself because I like this movie. I really like what they did. And then as I'm discussing it, I'm realizing points that I don't like. That was actually kind of dumb. It's like, well, why was this the premise for that? and whatever. But where the daughter ran off to was the bridge. She's visiting the memorial of her brother, and she ends up bringing him the spaceship that killed him. I'll never understand memorials and funerals the way other people do. I just don't get it. I understand it's for the living, not the dead. But yeah, here's your murder weapon. I just want to make sure you had this for all eternity, so it can haunt you. But they managed to take the sound pieces out, so it just lights up without it. So they gave him a safe version of it. It's like having a gun where the safety is welded on. I don't know. It's weird to me. So the father and son are on their way back. They pass by that farmhouse where they didn't want the girl to go down. And they end up seeing an old man. And there's an old woman who's dead nearby. And pretty clear that he killed her. And he's just standing there. And I don't know why he doesn't wait for them to leave or whatever. But he's obviously worked himself up to this point where, like, he dragged her out there and he killed her. And what's the second part of murder-suicide? Oh yeah, suicide. Because that's what a lot of things happen, especially when you're old and desperate and whatnot. So I guess they lived at the farmhouse that they didn't want people to go into. And they finally got fed up. And they're like, oh, I'm old, I can't do this. And we've managed to survive this long, but we can't take it. So, sure enough, he screams. He just out loud screams. It's not even that loud. It's just... Ah! But he's old and crazy looking, so it's a lot better than that. Father and son run, and they hide behind a tree, because honestly, that's probably what you should do in that scenario. And one of the monsters comes to get the old man. And from this angle, it actually looks like a big fucked up Slender Man. And that sounds familiar. Where have I seen those before? Oh yeah, Miss Peregrine's House for Peculiar Children, or Home for Peculiar Children, whatever it is. The Hollows. The Hollows are big, fucked up Slender Men. So these actually look amazingly similar, like it was from the same production studio. It doesn't have like the big tongues or the crazy hook limbs or anything like that. It's not invisible, but like the basic body structure is the same. Back home, mom's gonna have that baby. Her water breaks. This in itself, given the world so far, is pretty terrifying. Just, oh, it's happening. So you could have sold that as a short on YouTube, I think. Just honestly, that's kind of what I want to do. If I was a woman, I'd do it myself. But now I want to try to find someone to pretend to be pregnant and just have their water break in extreme situations in public and film it. God, it's a good idea. But she goes to the basement for some reason, and she steps on that nail. Sure enough. So she just wrenches her foot up off it and limps away. Doesn't bother to hammer it down or bend it or anything. Too many things going on, I'm sure. And I'm not positive why, but a monster shows up. Like, she didn't really make that much noise. She stifled her yell pretty well. Maybe it can smell blood, but that doesn't seem to be apparent. But it does seem to be hunting her. So I don't... Maybe it was the water breaking made enough noise. But she uses an egg timer to distract it so she can get away. And we get a real close look at it, and it's got like these retracting ear cover plates, and it's all over its head. Its head is basically one big inner eardrum with all these cover plates all over it, which makes it terrifying in its own way, but at the other time it's like, well, what if I shove something in there? How would you feel about that? So it's like 70% head plates, and then there's the back of the head, and then 20% mouth, because it's got like this big jaw mouth thing. So I guess you'd be too distracted to stick anything in the head plates. But I bet like if it got close enough, it could hear your heartbeat. So you couldn't just stand there or it'd hear your breathing. Mom ends up trying to go outside, but there's another one out there. I don't know if they pack hunt or if that's how they breed, or like they hunt in pairs. That's how they impress each other. I'm not sure. So she goes upstairs and climbs in the tub. I would have thought that'd be smart, like in general, but like just for having the baby and everything, but it just not a good time. And she finally screams because, God help her, she's having contractions. It's not a good time to be pregnant. Just the stress alone should have got to her. But I'm sure like the pain of childbirth is enough to make her scream without all the psychologicals. So Dad and son have managed to set off fireworks outside to drown out the noise because they got. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's one of the reasons she went to the basement. She flipped a switch on, which causes an electrical hum, by the way, when you run lights like that. So they should be able to hear that. But it puts on red lights so that you can see from far away that they're at the house, or there's danger, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So they managed to set off fireworks to distract and drown out noise. Dad has a shotgun, which is helpful. Typically with monsters, I'm just saying. He managed to get to the bathroom to check on her because I think he notices the blood going upstairs from her foot. So it was actually helpful. And she is not in the tub, and there's blood all over the place. So he basically has a panic attack. He basically lays on the floor and cries for a minute. And it turns out she's in the shower right next to him. So she watched all that happen without letting him know she was there. I get she's going through stuff. Dick move just a little bit. Can we agree on something for once? Because he was in the process of mourning her death, and then, oh, you're alive. Out in the field, the son's in a patch of corn. Horrible place to be. In general, like, there's just not a lot of good from being in a patch of corn. Like, there's no food around. Shut up, I don't care. It's not food, it's grass. You're making lots of noise. You don't even hide that well. Anywhere you go, like, anyone watching the top of it can see the stalks move. It's not very tactical unless you're super tiny and then you can move between the stalks. But he runs, and to my point, knocks himself out on a tractor. So at least he's not making a lot of noise. And he's stationary, so he's not rustling corn everywhere. Back home, Dad tries to take Mom underground. They had the baby. Don't ask me how, but there's a baby now. And they put the baby in a box. Which, when we were watching this over on Rabbit/Camera, I gotta be honest, there was a resounding what to this. It didn't make a lot of sense to anybody. But what they have hooked up is they have an oxygen tank hooked up for the baby. And then they close the box up so that when the baby cries into its oxygen mask, which it will pry off in the box and suffocate, it can't make any noise, and or at least the things can't hear it. I am going to kill you. Stop moving the lights. They're barely stable as it is. And then I start to pet you and you run off. You're a moron. So the baby in the box thing, not the best idea. Moving to the waterfall or even having Mom live there temporarily, I think would have been a better solution. Even if it's just temporarily. In the cornfield, the daughter shows up, finally. She doesn't know what's going on. She just sees the red lights. And then her cochlear implants end up messing with the monster somehow. Maybe the pulse that it's giving. Come here. It's fine. It's just come here. Stop making so much noise. We're talking about a quiet place. You can't meow like that. My cats would be dead instantly. I take that back. Rooster would be dead. He's apt to his name at this point. The other two would be fine. They're pretty quiet most of the time, unless they get really excited. Idiot cat. Anyways, blah 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 blah. So amplifies most of the monster. It runs away. I call it the bunker, but it's like a sub basement. It's like a basement under the basement, which makes it a sub basement. But it's basically a bunker, or maybe it's a separate part of the basement. The point is that it's under the house. It's not adjacent to the existing basement, but it's definitely underground. And they actually talk. They actually feel safe enough about the soundproofing and everything that they can talk. And I've never wanted Emily Blunt to shut up more in my entire life. I usually enjoy her acting. I think her dialogue and her delivery is witty and talented. And she's gorgeous. She's got a lovely voice. But shut the fuck up. The whole thing that makes this movie special is that you can't do that. As soon as they started talking, it fell apart for me. I was like, no, why is this a thing? Oh my god. Stop talking. Like, I didn't want it to be safe for them to talk. Like, just for the movie's purposes. So that's just where my brain went. And the field, the daughter finally finds the brother. And they run off together. Dad ends up leaving the bunker, and we see water running. For the life of me, I cannot believe that there's actually water still going through pipes and being delivered to the house. They can only possibly have so much water stored on the roof. Maybe they have a water tower on top of the roof, but that would have had to have been collecting actively, or they would have been refilling it like for a year or two. And the way rain barrels work is that the rain hits the roof, it runs off, and collects in barrels. You could do that with a water tower by leaving it not open, but you essentially leave a funnel on top and then it pours in. But then you have to worry about it escaping out, so you have to manually... There's so many problems with the idea that they have that access to that much water. But Emily Blunt passes out because she had a baby. And this running water nonsense ends up filling up the sub-basement bunker thing. So she kind of wakes up like she's floating. Or her bed's wet, something like that. But she wakes up, and the basement has rapidly filled to the point where the baby in the box is floating around. The lid somehow fell off. I don't know if maybe the baby pushed it open. Maybe the creature was trying to figure out the box. I don't know. But she wakes up, and not only is the place flooded, but there's a creature at the bottom of the steps. The baby's in a box. He's trying to figure it out, because it's floating towards the creature, or it's floating in between her and the creature. Let's say that. So she's panicking almost immediately, and I'm kind of lost because I thought it was secure and everything, and so now it's flooded, and it feels like we skipped part of the movie, honestly, if I gotta be honest. It's not great. And we get to see the monsters swim, which I thought was interesting. Like, it just kind of like collapses in on itself and slips into the water. And in theory anyways, it comes into the room as she's moving towards the baby, and she kind of stops, just reaches out for it, and then it kind of pops back up on the other side, right after she picks up the baby. So she manages to grab the baby and slowly make her way back to where the water's flooding down. There's a waterfall of sorts there, and we kind of learned earlier about sound drowning, and she pulls the baby behind the water, hoping that the water will stifle whatever little stupid noises the baby has to make. Because babies coo and they all noises. But right now it's attracting monsters, so it's less cute. And it's just not looking good, like when they finally cut away. But the kids have managed to put themselves on top of a tower silo thing, and the roof starts falling in. It turns out it's doors. Like, one of the doors fell in as they're walking on top of the silo for no reason. So that makes a lot of noise, which makes the one hunting mom and baby run away. Plus, there should have been like one or two more in the area, making 2 or 3 that would have gained the attention. But the one from the house really hears it and takes off, even though it's pretty far away. But it manages to climb up and get at the kids. And the kids' move is that the brother accidentally falls into the corn. And for whatever reason, the physics end up acting like quicksand, which I don't agree with at all. Granted, in theory, you should be able to swim in kernels of corn, but you should also be able to float by dispersing weight. Regardless, it's packed pretty well. It doesn't make sense that they sink. So, ignoring that bullshit. What ends up happening is they drop the door in, and like he ends up grabbing that to stabilize himself. And she ends up dropping, or like maybe the first door sank, but she ends up dropping the other door in, and it floats on top when he doesn't. And then she manages to jump down and pushes it to him, so he's safe. But then she starts drowning, and he climbs it to get a hand to her, and it looks like Titanic. It's a pretty ridiculous looking scene. And if you weren't so caught up in the idea that they're making so much noise and they're trying to hide from this monster, that like it would probably be a problem. I mean, it would probably look ridiculous. So the monster finally shows up to investigate what's going on and jumps right in. He doesn't sink. And then what ends up happening is that they cover themselves with the door. So, because one of them's on top, the other one's like to the side. Maybe he climbs up, but they end up sinking and then hanging onto the door, which magically stays on the surface with the creature pushing on it. And there's probably like a physics, like dispersal of weight thing for aqua dynamics happening, even though they're not really in aqua. But the cochlear implants end up messing up again, and the creature bugs out so hard he does a Wile E. Coyote out the side wall. And they can use that to escape. Back in the field, they manage to finally get to Dad. Dad has them hide in a truck, I think, if I remember right. He grabs an axe. I don't know what happened to his shotgun, though it would attract more monsters. And he almost hits the creature. He got real close, Dad. But it hits him first. The boy screams, and it comes after the kids, because why wouldn't it? Dad's down for the count, and there's more food over there. And it really just starts fucking up the truck, which makes me think that if it makes noise, why don't other things show up to kill it? This movie has so many holes in it. But damn, was it a good experience. I'm so torn on this. When I finally go to review this, it's going to be a nightmare. So Dad finally comes to, he sees what's happening, he drops the axe and screams, and he just takes it like a little bitch. I at least would have tried to put the axe through its head, in its mouth, something. And granted, it's got like praying mantis type claw things, but whatever. They run off to Mom. Oh man, oh jeez. Oh god, so the daughter ends up finally having pieced it together. I don't know why she didn't figure this out in the car, but she finds the cochlear implants. They're mourning Dad. Creature finally comes downstairs. Mom has the shotgun ready, and there's several shifts. I didn't mention this. I forgot to make notes on this throughout the whole movie, but there's several shifts to her perspective, the deaf perspective, where it's totally quiet, even though there's stuff going on. And it's not even muted. It's just quiet. And it's really cool to have that in contrast. If it's the whole movie, you don't notice, but when it suddenly cuts to that audioly with your ears, like, it's really interesting to see that. But the daughter ends up using her cochlear implants to stun it or whatever, and then she amplifies it with the radio system because there's speakers and stuff on it. The creature has this total freak out with all its plates like freaking out and everything, and the detail's just amazing. It's so good. But it basically gets knocked out. So when it comes to, its head plates are all shifted, and it charges, and Mom shoots it in the head, and of course more start showing up, and cut to black. That's the end of the movie. There's a whole nother act here. I don't care if it's Act 4. There's a whole nother movie dealing with that situation. But I think the hope you're supposed to walk away with is that, like, everything's going to be okay. And no, I want to see the action. I don't care about the happily ever after. I care about how we get there. And again, this movie is very short. It has a shit ton of holes in it. But damn, is it a good experience. I don't know how you fix the holes without ruining the experience. And the experience is what's important here, which is probably why it was so short. Because it's hard to deliver on a longer experience like this. But I'm going to go. Have yourselves a wonderful night from us here on Scary Movie Squad. This has been #WeAreMovieClub. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and they'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.